Yesterday, at the very end of the show, I had a caller who basically, an African-American caller, was basically asking, you know, what have the Democrats done for me? And I said, well, there's civil rights. But the thing that tripped me on this, or tripped this button, triggered a button in my head, was the fact that I know that this is a Republican trolling line, and in fact that has been promoted by Donald Trump explicitly in his speeches, and that I believe was even part of the Marina Butina indictment. And so I was, shall we say, a little pissed off, I guess is the right phrase, that this guy, you know, kind of caught me and was 50 seconds to go at the end of the show. And I think my response to him came off as dismissive or even condescending, and you know, well, maybe it was intended that way. Anyhow, I wanted to reality check all this with our old friend Joe Madison, whose show is on Sirius XM every day from 6 to 10 a.m. on Sirius Channel 126. He's a civil and human rights activist. JoeMadison.com is his website. His Twitter handle is MadisonSiriusXM. Joe, welcome back to the program.
Hey, Tom. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. So, your thoughts and how you would respond to somebody asking that question?
Well, I got the same question, and it might have been from the same folk, and they always, first of all, let's understand something. Nobody admits to being a troll. So let's recognize even when they're caught. So that's the first thing. But I got the same question not too long ago, and I got that a matter of fact quite a bit during the last presidential campaign, and it was also an attempt to try to discourage African Americans from either one, voting for Hillary, 2, going to the polls, and then 3, saying voting does no good. And they usually start off with, okay, what has this party done for you? Well, I got the question the other day. Now, here's how I responded to it. I said, let's take just 5 general categories. 1, criminal justice. Look at the Democratic position on criminal justice. It's very clear. I won't go through the ABCDs of it. 2, environmental justice, particularly as it relates to lead in public school waters. I think 90% of the public schools, they're not even providing funding, get this, not even providing funding to test the waters to make sure that it's safe, and what has to be done to get the lead out of the water. 2, public education. Number 3, the health care. But let me just give this person who called in a couple of things that Democrats have done, and they're not perfect by any means. Just during President Obama's administration, you had 62 lifetime appointments of African Americans to serve on the federal bench. 62. This included 9 African American circuit court judges, including 26 African American women appointed to the federal court, which, by the way, is more African American women appointed by any president in history. I mean, I could go to the health care. The Democrats pushed for the Affordable Care Act. And if you look at the Affordable Care Act, I would have said to the troll, you had roughly 9 million African Americans uninsured who now will have health insurance through the Affordable Care Act. And what we do know the Republican Party did was what? They fought it tooth and nail every single time. Department of Justice. The Democrats investigated several police departments as shootings of unarmed black men by officers, and deaths in custody became epidemic, and again led to the Black Lives Matter. And that slogan, what did Republicans say? Oh, it's racist. No, it wasn't. Black Lives Matter, I'll say it again, it was a statement of focus, not exclusion. Let me repeat. It was a statement of focus, not exclusion. And almost every single Republican candidate for office and existing office holder said and the social media is full of their comments. It's a racist statement, but it's not. It's focus, not exclusion, because yes, we know all lives matter. Unemployment, 7.9%, and I know the Trump folks are talking about unemployment is down, but I just read a Bloomberg report where yes, unemployment is down, but guess what happened with this $1.5 trillion tax cut for the wealthy? Wages are down. There's a report out today. I spent about a half an hour today on my show talking about it, Tom. Wages are not only stagnant, they're down. And most of the money from the tax cut went to the super wealthy that you talk about every single day. But under Democratic leadership, just recent, and I'm talking about recent now, I'm not going to go back into history, recent black poverty declined by a net of 23.6 percentage points. But by the way, grew, now get this, by 3 points when Republicans held the White House. Now, I'm not, this is facts. And that's part of the problem when you're dealing with trolls. They don't want to deal with facts. And I don't know how you argue whether you got 5 seconds left or 5 hours left, because if you give them a fact, if I tell you this is a telephone I'm talking on, and they tell you that it's a bullhorn, then what do we do? I mean, we can't argue, and so that's why I really don't argue with them, because they're there. And I will say one other thing, and I think I mentioned this to you the other day. The indictment of some 12 Russian generals, I believe, assigned by Putin. We know that's a fact. They targeted African American social media and talk radio. And the person who showed me the 3 or 4 pages in the indictment said to me, and this is a person who is well established in the intelligence community, said to me, look, Russians are good. They're very good at doing this, and they've been doing it a long time. But they aren't that good that they know how to communicate with the African American community. So I'm not surprised that you got that call, because it's the same call I've got, but anybody can Google the information that I just shared with you in less than 5 minutes. Sure,
and did a great job of it. The one particular peril is the wrong word, because it makes me sound like a victim, but as a white guy talking to an African American who's asking, what have the Democrats done for you? And then I say, well, civil rights, or look at the makeup of the Republican caucus. You've only got one black senator, one black member of the House, and neither one of them want to join the
Congressional Black Caucus.
Yeah, exactly. It comes across as condescending, or as, how dare you even ask me? Like it comes across sounding like some kind of super white privilege or something, and I'm sure that's how I came across sounding. How do I deal with that?
I mean, I didn't hear the conversation. Quite honestly,
yeah, I
wouldn't.
Send you the clip.
I wouldn't really. I would stick with facts.
Yeah.
That's exactly. Look, the reality is that. Look, I heard your show the other day when you played, and I've played this a lot. Lee Atwater's Southern Strategy.
Yeah.
And see, here's what they'll do. They'll call in and say, well, Democrats were racist. Yes, they were. They were for from the end of the post-Civil War until probably about the time that Truman integrated the armed forces, which led then to more integration with Eisenhower, and then of course the Democrats through Humphrey. The pendulum swung towards civil rights, the labor movement, and then what happened? Dixiecrats, who were Democrats, Southern Democrats, were invited to join the Republican Party. You have that audio clip. You have
of Lee?
Lee
yeah, I can play it right now if you'd like.
Well, go ahead, and he talks about how to make race abstract. It'll do the same thing, but it's abstract.
Yeah, actually, the one I've got, I'm looking at the waveform on it, and I'm not sure that it's been beeped. So
Here's how I would approach that issue as a statistician, like political science, or no, as a psychologist, which I'm not, is how abstract you handle the race thing. In other words, you start out, and now y'all aren't quoting me on this, you start out in 1954 by saying,
yeah, we did.
By 1968, you can't say that hurts or backfires, so you say stuff like forced busing, states' rights, and all that stuff.
And then he goes on and he says, and then you get into economic issues which hurt black folks more than white folks, and now you're totally abstract.
Now you're totally abstract, and I cut my political teeth, we're about the same age, on that period of time.
Yep.
And so the Dixiecrats then joined the Republican Party, and then went from there to the Tea Party. And, we tend to forget that on inauguration night, let me go back to what the Democrats have done.
We have about 40 seconds, Joe, just until we hit a hard break.
They're not perfect. They're not perfect. But I tell you, if I were a Republican and a coal miner, I'd be wondering why they haven't helped coal miners that are now dying of black lung disease. And I could list a few other things that Republicans ought to be asking.
Yeah. Actually, that's pretty important stuff. What has the Republican Party done for you?
Thank you.
I mean, this is it's pretty incredible. Joe, thanks so much for dropping in, and I know that you've got to get to something else, but I really appreciate you dropping in and discussing this with us.
Thank you. Anytime, Tom.
Joe Madison, the great Joe Madison. You can hear him on Sirius XM channel 129 every morning, weekdays, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Civil and human rights activist. JoeMadison.com is his website. Madison Sirius XM is his Twitter handle. We'll be back. It's 18 minutes past the hour here on the Thom Hartmann Program. What has the Democratic Party done for you, whoever you may be, lately? And what more would you like it to do?
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Excuse me, Joe's on channel 126 on Sirius XM, not 129, channel 126.